Where is Mount Carmel? What do we know about Mount Carmel? In Christian tradition, Mount Carmel is linked to the prophet Elijah, who is believed to have had a significant encounter with God on the mountain. The site is mentioned in the Bible, particularly in the context of Elijah's confrontation with the prophets of Baal. Elevation as a mountain. The mountain must have an elevation above 2,000 feet, 610 meters. The Oxford English Dictionary also suggests a limit of 2,000 feet, 610 meters, and Whittow states, some authorities regard eminences above 600 meters or 1,169 feet as mountains, those below being referred to as hills. Today, a mountain is usually defined in the UK and Ireland as any summit at least 2,000 feet or 610 meters high. Biblical reference. So Ahab went up to eat and to drink, and Elijah went up to the top of Mount Carmel. 1 Kings 18:42. Proximity to vineyards. The mountain should be near vineyards, or in natural vineyard territory. Biblical reference. Now Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard in Jezreel, beside the palace of Ahab king of Samaria. 1 Kings 21:1. Visible fire, burnt rocks or lava-based remnants. The mountain must have visible evidence of fire, burnt rocks, or lava-based remnants. Biblical reference. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt offering, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. 1 Kings 18:38.
So in this slide, what you see is just a representation of a hill and a mountain. So one of the things that you will notice is that mountains have peaks. They have different elevation and they have a different curvature. So it's not gonna be smooth and low as compared to a mountain. A mountain will be steep and it will have its own peaks. So that's something that you should note, so that you, every time you hear about a mountain and a hill, you know there's a difference. And secondly, mountains were used as waypoints or way markers, the way you can have something that can show you a certain location or a certain place, were used as way markers. So if you wanted to get some sense of direction, you'd use a mountain because it would be higher than most of the others. So you wouldn't get lost knowing that at least you're almost going close to the mountain or going close to the location. Thank you. Next slide. So in the current day, in modern day Israel, you see the mountain they say is Mount Carmel is only 1,791 feet or 546 meters. So in the context of the definition of a mountain, it does not cut out to be a mountain. It will rather be classified as a hill. So you can play the audio.
The present-day location of Mount Carmel in Israel, in the Middle East, reaches its highest point at 1,191 feet, or 546 meters above sea level. According to the definition of a mountain, this elevation does not meet the criteria, classifying it as a hill rather than a mountain. Just to remind you, a mountain is usually defined as any summit at least 2,000 feet or 610 meters high.
So in this list, you can see the list of mountains and hills and all the ones they have in the current day Israel. So you can see the highest points and which amongst them are classified as mountains, and from the list of definition. So you have Mount Hermon, which is 2,814, Mount Meron, 1,208, Mount Table, which is 588, really a hill. Mount Carmel, 546, really a hill. They even have Mount Abel, which is 181 meters. Wow. Mount Gilboa, 508 meters. Mount Scopas, 826. Mount of Olives is the same as Mount Scopas in height, which is interesting because you normally don't find the peaks normally being the same. Mount Sodom, 220 meters. This is a mountain which is 220 meters. It's a hill. Mount Ramon, 1038. Anafa, 902 meters. Mount Bental, 1140 meters. So in short, just looking at this table, you can see which ones cut it out to be a mountain and a hill, just as a start. The rest of the details you can find out more. But obviously, you can see if something is 181 meters high, it cannot be classified as a mountain. So we go now into the meaning of the mount or the name, so we can play the audio.
In the Blue Letter Bible, King James Version Strong's Concordance, the name Carmel is associated with the Hebrew word Carmel, and its Strong's number is H3760. The Strong's definition for Carmel is garden land or vineyard. The root word for Carmel, Carmel, is indeed linked to the idea of a vineyard or garden. This meaning aligns with the geographical features and significance of Mount Carmel in the biblical narrative, as the region was known for its fertility and cultivation, including vineyards. As for the modern vineyards found in the region, namely Crystal Kellerai and Erongo Mountain Winery, their presence in the area aligns with the historical association of Carmel with vineyards. It reflects the connection with the concept of a fruitful field or vineyard, as suggested by the name Carmel in the biblical context, and corroborates the location.
So in that slide, what we showed you, this is the location of Mount Carmel. The vineyards you are seeing are found in Namibia, which is in the southern part of Africa, next to South Africa. So we'll get to see the map later on. But now we are going to a slide in Namibia. The name of the mountain is called Brandberg, and this is just a definition of the name. And also we look at from the Dutch definition, which came recently, because the Dutch were only there within the last 100 years or so. But you have the native people, the Damara and the Herero, who are Bantus from the region.
The name Brandberg is derived from Afrikaans, Dutch, and German, meaning burning mountain. This name is attributed to the mountain's glowing color, which is occasionally visible during the sunset. In the Damara language, the mountain is referred to as Dur, signifying burning mountain, while the Herero name for it is Omukuruvaro, meaning mountain of the gods. The Brandberg Mountain, also known as the Burning Mountain or Omukuruvaro, stands at an elevation of 8,200 feet or 2,500 meters. In comparison to the other location described as a hill, with an elevation of 1,691 feet or 546 meters. The significant difference in elevation between the two locations is apparent. In the short of it, numbers don't lie. Visible fire-burnt rocks, or lava-based remnants. These rocks are found on the mountain Brandesberg and Erongo region. The process by which tourmaline is created is better known as the hypothermal process, and it involves not only the water that is undissolved from the hot magma, but rainwater. This mix of water and minerals tends to fill the cracks in the magma as it cools and hardens into rock. As a result, tourmaline, or other similarly created gems, can be found in large veins. Pay attention to the process and the sequence of the items. Burnt up water was the last one. The biblical passage, 1 Key 18:38, "Then the fire of the Lord fell, and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench." This explanation and the hypothermal process exhibit a fascinating parallel. In the hypothermal process, rainwater, undissolved water, and minerals combine within cooling magma, leading to the genesis of gemstones such as tourmaline, often found in substantial mineral veins. Similarly, in the biblical account, as the fire of the Lord descended, it consumed not only the burnt offering, wood, stones, and even the dust, but also the water contained within the trench. This remarkable event, echoing the fusion of elements in the hypothermal process, underscores the awe-inspiring power of the Most High. We also have pyrophyllite, which occurs in phyllite and schistose rocks, often associated with kyanite, of which it is an alteration product. It also occurs as hydrothermal deposits. We have to dig in deeper search for more to be revealed.
So here is just a description of what you find in the current mountain. You find that also in the region, basically in Namibia, in the Rongo Mountains. It's a mountain range, and Brandesberg is one of it's the highest, followed by Mount Rongo, which is so in the region. So you get this stone or this, let me call it product of the mountain, and it comes from a burning effect. So if you notice the sequence of how things got burnt, those first the burning of the sacrifice, the bull or the cow or bull, and then it burnt the wood. Then it burnt the stones. So when you burn the stones, you melt them. So when you melt stones, you find that you get magma or lava. Then it mixed with the water, which was at the bottom, which the water had been drained, or rather had been poured on the sacrifice. So by that process, you now find this rock formation. So it's interesting that you can find this here as compared to the other side, because the other side would need to provide us with at least remnants of such kind of stones or gems which have been formed through such process. Can skip to the next slide.
Further
So the
characteristics
next one.
must-haves for the location to qualify to be Mount Carmel. Nearness to the ocean. Biblical reference. "And Elijah said to his servant, Go up now, look toward the sea. And he went up and looked and said, There is nothing. And he said, Go again, 7 times. 1 Kings 18:43. Agricultural significance, supported by documentation evidence. Biblical reference. The story of Naboth's vineyard in 1 Kings 21 provides additional evidence of the agricultural significance of the region. 1 Kings 18:38.
So from here you can see the mountain on the left hand where it's blue. You can see that's the sea or the ocean. So the mountain, when Elijah sent his servant, you could actually go up and see, and 7 times. So the ocean or the coastline couldn't have been far from it, so that he could be able to see the cloud, as it were, as he had been asked to go check.
Close to a great river, winding Kishon River, now called River Ugab. The mountain must be close to a great river, specifically with winding features. Biblical reference. The Kishon River is mentioned in the context of the showdown between Elijah and the prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, 1 Kings 18:40. Additionally, after this event, Elijah chased the prophets of Baal and slaughtered them at the brook of Kishon, 1 Kings 18:41-40. It's noteworthy that the root word for Kishon means winding, similar to a winding road, or the movement of a snake. The winding nature of the river adds depth to the geographical features associated with Mount Carmel, emphasizing that the river could not have been too far away for them to chase down the 450 prophets.
So here we see when it says 1 Kings 18:40, just for you to take down notes. And Elijah said unto them, take the prophets of Baal, let no one of them escape. And they took them and they brought them down to the brook Kishon and slew them down there. So a brook is a stream from a main river. So what you notice about this river, it's like a flash flood river. It's very big and it waters a big vast land. But when it rains, it comes out alive, or what you call flash floods rivers. So it's not constantly there in this case. When it rains, it comes from an uphill area and it drains down. So the streams would be close to the mountain hill or the bottom of the mountain, so that they would be able to chase the prophets. You can see the closest to the winding part of the river would be somewhere there, or the other part where this going to join the main river. So you notice that they were chasing 450 of them. So currently in the modern day Israel, you can see where the Kishon River is, the Mount Carmel, where it is. So you can play the audio.
The geographical observation from the Google Maps image indicates that the current location of Mount Carmel and the river Kishon is approximately 43 kilometers, about 26.7 miles apart. This raises the question of whether it is plausible for Elijah and others to have chased the 450 prophets of Baal over such a considerable distance, equivalent to running a full marathon. However, it's essential to note that the real location, with a 5 kilometers distance between the mountain and the brook of Kishon, presents a more accurate context.
So you can see what we were looking at before. This is the mountain and the river is down there, a distance of 5.57 or 5 kilometers to the main river, but it's close to the brook, which is just at the bottom of the mountain. So this would make sense. So even if they were to slaughter this, the water would probably, or the water would carry their bodies into the river stream and it would flow off. But the other one is too far off. By the time they get there, they would already have fainted. What's the point of 43 kilometers apart? These guys, would you carry them to the river? So when you look at the Kishon River in current day Israel, it does not wind. It does not wind like a snake pattern. So the winding effect must form something like a U, or the pattern in which you see snakes winding, or a river or a road winding. This one, first of all, it's 44 kilometers away or 43 kilometers away, and it does not wind. So when you look at this current river in Namibia, this is called River Ugab, or the Kishon River. So you can see the winding nature where it's close. You can see it. It's a winding nature. You can see its patterns. You can notice the difference. And it's a great river. If you look up the Ugab River, it's quite a big river. And it's known to water part of the desert and other lands as well.
In examining the connection between Ekron and Mount Irongo in present-day Namibia, we find an intriguing correlation. The reference to the Lord of the Flies in the context of Baal Zebub, the god of Ekron, adds to the fascination. Beelzebub is frequently linked to the title Lord of Flies, with imagery sometimes associated with the scarab or dung beetle. Notably, Mount Erongo is home to the Versicorpus erongoensis, a species of dung beetle, creating a connection to the ancient symbolism associated with Beelzebub. It's worth noting the linguistic parallel between the biblical name Ekron, meaning barren or torn away, and the Erongo region's location borderline of the Namib Desert. Remarkably, the Erongo region not only lies in the location, but also faces the sea. Relevant scriptures supporting the association of Ekron with the Erongo region include Joshua 15:46, mentioning Ekron extending to the sea near Ashdod, and Joshua 19:43, listing Ekron along with other locations. Judges 1:18 further emphasizes the territorial significance of Ekron in relation to Judah's conquests. Judges 1:18. Also Judah took Gaza with the coast thereof, and Ascalon with the coast thereof, and Ekron with the coast thereof. These correlations highlight the intricate interplay between biblical references and the geographical features of Mount Erongo, shedding light on the convergence of ancient texts and the landscapes they describe.
So these are the scriptures that are mentioned. You'll hear Mount Erongo. It's normally referred to as a region, the Brandisberg Mountain. It's a region encompassing the Mount Erongo, Mount Brandisberg, which is Mount Carmel, and it stretches uphill. Just one of the things I wanted to note is that Ekron is from what you call a city of the one of the 5 cities of Philistines. So it's a city among the Philistines. And if you remember the story of Elijah and Ahab and Jezebel, the father of Jezebel was king of Ekronites or Sidonians. They're actually Ekronites. It's named as Baal of Ekronites. So he was coming from the region. So, and the region is close to the ocean or close to the sea. So it's just something for you to note. And why it's important because Ekron and Mount Carmel is also mentioned in other scriptures which relates to the location. So it starts to fit in as a puzzle. So if you find one, you'll find Sidonians, you'll find the father of Jezebel, you'll find Elijah, you'll find the Sheba, and on and on and on and on.
In 2 Kings 1:2, King Ahaziah of Israel suffered an injury by falling through a lattice in his upper chamber in Samaria, resulting in illness. Instead of turning to the God of Israel for guidance and healing, Ahaziah sent messengers to inquire of Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, seeking insight into whether he would recover from his ailment. Ekron, 86138. Ekron is described in Strong's Concordance as a city in Philistia, one of the principal cities of the Philistine Pentapolis, located in the western part of ancient Israel. This choice by Ahaziah to consult Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, is significant. Baal-zebub is often interpreted as the Lord of Flies, and this title is thought to be associated with the Canaanite god's supposed ability to ward off diseases or pests. The imagery of the Lord of Flies is linked to the scarab, or dung beetle.
So if you notice, one of the things that they used to, or rather when we were growing up, we used to say this quite a lot. So if you read more about the dung beetle, it finds its location by using the sun. So when these people were worshipping this dung beetle, they were referencing how it's able to look up in the sun and find its GPS coordinates. So they would use that as a tool of idol worship and be able to just take it by its ability to find its way back or find its home as one of the things they admired about it. So it rotates, it carves this ball out of bull manure or cow dung, so to speak. And then these are the same guys who are worshiping this idol. It's quite interesting. So you find that scarab or that particular dung beetle is home in that region. So there's no way you can tell us these people were talking about Balzibab, Lord of the Flies, and they didn't have something to put it in context.
Scarab, dung beetle at Mount Erongo connection. A scarab is a type of ancient Egyptian symbol and artifact, often depicted as a dung beetle. The scarab beetle was highly significant in Egyptian mythology and culture. It represented the sun, transformation, and rebirth, as well as protection from evil forces. The image of a scarab was used in various forms, including amulets, jewelry, and seals. The idea of the scarab beetle's connection to the sun and rebirth likely came from observing the beetles rolling balls of dung, which were used as a food source for their offspring. The beetles would roll these dung balls across the ground, and the Egyptians associated this behavior with the sun's daily journey across the sky. Scarab amulets, in particular, were placed on mummies and used as charms to protect the deceased in the afterlife. The scarab's association with resurrection and protection made it a powerful symbol in ancient Egyptian culture and a common motif in their art and jewelry. Mount Erongo is the only place on Earth that Versicorpus erongoensis, a dung beetle species, occurs.
Nick, you're on mute.
You can see, yeah. You can see this is a depiction of the scarab. You've probably seen this in Egyptian artifacts and things like this. So they would represent it like you'd find it in different carved in stone or put in different curvatures and artifacts. It's even in some movies, I think so, Indiana Jones or something like that, when the Beatles come up. You can also, this is one of the chairs of the Pharaoh. You can see it there. It's also depicted. And you can see the red part, which is the sun, part of their idol worship. So why is it important? Because we know Beelzebub, of Lord of the Flies. We're just giving a historical content where this all came from and how it connects to the region and to that location, specifically in Namibia, Mount Erongo, which covers the section up to Brandesberg Mountain.
In considering the evidence presented, it becomes increasingly compelling to assert that the real location of Mount Carmel is in Namibia, specifically at Mount Brandberg. Several factors align to support this conclusion. Firstly, the elevation of Mount Brandberg, standing at approximately 2,573 meters, 8,439 feet, corresponds closely to the significance of Mount Carmel in biblical accounts. The presence of the Versicorpus erongoensis dung beetle in the region, ties to the ancient symbolism of Baal-zebub, aligns with the biblical narrative associating Baal-zebub with the Lord of Flies. The proximity of Mount Brandberg to the ocean and the availability of vineyards in the region also resonate with the descriptions of Carmel in the Bible. The original names, such as Mountain of the Gods and Burning Mountain, find resonance in the geographical and geological features of Mount Brandberg. The winding nature of the Ugab River, colloquially referred to as the Kishon River, echoes the biblical association with the River Kishon. Examining the rocks found on Mount Brandberg and their formation process lends additional support to the identification. Furthermore, The mention of Bathsheba in the vicinity reinforces the geographical consistency, highlighting the interconnectedness of biblical locations in the region. Collectively, these diverse elements provide a robust foundation for the assertion that Mount Brandberg in Namibia aligns closely with the biblical narratives and descriptions of Mount Carmel.
So that's the conclusion. One of the other things that goes on to support this narrative is you must remember after the prophet Elijah was taken up, we have prophet Elijah, who also performed miracles of fire coming down. But he never came down on mountains. He came up on a hill when he burned 50 or so messengers. I think they were army guys. So not once, I think several times in scripture you find that. Two, when Elijah found out that Queen Jezebel wanted him dead, he took off from Jezreel to Bathsheba. So in the same region of Namibia, you find Bathsheba. So when you start connecting all this, you start seeing the dots. And then you look at where was Jezebel from? Sidonia, Sidonis, and Sidonis is Econite, such things. The other thing you have to look at is Elijah. Elijah was a Tishbite. And when they are asked by King Ahab, what kind of man was he? You look at him, he was a description of almost the guy from The Gods Must Be Crazy. And the guy from The Gods Must Be Crazy movie was wearing a girdle, had pants of skin like Elijah. So that's just a description. And where do we find these people? You find them in that region of Namibia all the way down to South Africa. Thank you.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Thank you, Brother Nick. Thank you, Brother Nick. That was awesome. Still taking notes over here. All right, welcome everybody else who joined us. Brother Naibu, Mama Matuzola, Brother Makudi. I hope you caught it in good time. That was a presentation about Mount Carmel. Thoughts, feelings, ideas, what was going through your mind? All right, remember to put a Q or a C in the chat so that I can get the order right. Go ahead, Brother Nick.
One of the other things that people confuse the mountains with is when we talk about Mount Sinai, for example, where the Most High gave the commandments, we do not have the mountain burning. The fire was not burning. In this other case, the fire came down and burned. The other one was like the way you'd put like methylated spirit. It doesn't burn, but it glows like a fire, but it doesn't burn up. So we are never told when the Most High gave the commandments that fire came down and burnt the mountain. So, because if you burnt down the mountain, Moses himself would have also been burnt, or we would have some evidence of burnt rock remaining. And that would be, you'd find evidence in terms of the rock formation or other distinct features of that place not growing any kind of crop from the ground, because it would have minerals that were taken out for crops to be able to grow. So just a distinction, so that when you get there, probably it could be Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai was never burnt. The Most High appeared as a fire, but never burnt.
All right, good point. Brother Makudi. Brother Makudi, if you're speaking, you're on mute. Okay, go ahead.
See him, family. I was just thinking, when you guys have mentioned the Mount Carmel is a hill as compared to a mountain. And I always think like, I mean, mountain, when I think of the landmass of uh, full Israel, right? And I think of the landmass where there's mountains. It you know, can I ask myself, why is there uh why is the mountains that the notable mountains that we know of are in places of a much larger landmass? You see what I'm saying? Like I'm not looking to a Caribbean island to find a mountain, a notable mountain and mountain range. You see what I'm saying? Like even in America, what they have the Aaron, what do you call those mountains? The RD, I don't forgot, but they're in New York, right? The R&D Dak Mountain or whatever you call it, that's a mountain range, but that's connected to a large landmass. You see what I'm saying? What they say is Israel is in between uh someone else's country. It is someone else's country for all intents and purposes. But so I can't necessarily just take something that resembles what I wanted to resemble and just label it something without the proper system of metrics being applied to it, the measurements and so on and so forth. So yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that, like for instance, Kilimanjaro, right? Tanzania is huge. You see what I'm saying? In Kenya, around, like there are mountains there, So I mean, just compared to that place, and it's like I don't know, I'm just like they will tell you what's on my brain right now.
I think I think Brother Makudi, I don't know when you joined, but Brother Nick presented the exact opposite of what you're saying. Or rather, what you're saying is what Brother Nick presented. He was showing that Mount Carmel is a huge landmass, and it's over 2,700 meters. And he was showing the Mount Carmel in present-day Israel is 588 meters. It's a small hill.
I was talking about their representation. I wasn't talking about the real representation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I was talking about that's why I said full Israel.
Okay, got you. We're on the same page. All right. I got you. Thank you. All right. Mama Emma Doris, go ahead.
Thoughts. One of the first things that came up was a thought. It's an old song that I'm gonna say from the description that I know now, the non-melanated people came up with, I think, and it talks about the east and west, and there the twain shall meet. And so we have, even as the brother was just talking about the mountain in Kilimanjaro, which is on the east, and we're talking about the mountain, the real mountains on the west, and how, again, the thought that the Most High is saying that I mentioned earlier about how we always defer to our knowledge and our connection to being made in his image and his likeness. In the negative, you know, what we have learned as we were born into the matrix with this deceptive understanding of who we are. And so, and now it's at the height of that because the enemy, again, is in there trying to keep us from coming and be unified. The feminine aspect of the Most High and the masculine aspect will create his true image. And it's found in each one of us individually, and it's found in each one of the aspects of where we have been scattered as we said, expats or diasporians and all those things. So those are the thoughts that came. And then when he began with Mount Carmel, I had seen a video as I've been watching Maya, and the whole idea that the children now on the African continent don't know their history and don't know that they have all this beautiful wealth and at their finger, you know, at the tip of their hands. And so he's, the Most High has anointed him to begin to break down this barrier. And so he's been traveling. So I saw that one video that he made when he went to Namibia. And right after that, a video came up of this people who own primary land in Namibia, the Germans, it was the Germans. And he was showing all this property and was saying, you know, how they always own it. And then it showed this African man who is a caregiver of this property. And, you know, it was like, and they just keep throwing this in our face, you know, we got hold of it and we're not going to let you have access to it. So, and again, how the information that Nick presented is like, wow, where did you get this? You know, and it's like the information that we have or that I have access to is not that plain or not that concrete. And this is the other thought that came with that was like the children on the continent that they are telling us don't have any association with. You have the visual, live, real information at your hands. And so it's the Most High is making it, quote unquote, easier for you to interpret it correctly as in your connection with the people that you are. And how, okay, just so many. The other thought is the connection with the information that the Most High is revealing through Nkosi in the UK, again, because of his connection with Britain, and Britain being one of the primary deceptors and warmongers on the continent, and how he is doing the same thing. He's unraveling the continent, you know, how it's been hitting the places on the continent and how they were translated over into the Levant. So again, and how somehow Nick, Vincent, you know, and I don't know if they are watching his videos or anything, but how the unity, the clarity, the pureness of the goal that the Most High said you being what's the word? Purified as pure gold. But in the purification, there's dross. And so again, he's saying sometimes we focus on the dross, and it's important because the dross has to do with the technique of the enemy. He wants us to keep focusing on the dross, and the Most High said, no, you're going to come forth as pure gold. And then also within that, we have learned, we were taught that you can't get to the pure gold until you die and you go to heaven. The Most High is saying, no, and the streets of gold is in Africa, literally in Africa. And our people have been walking on the streets of gold, but been deceived that they have to go through death. And we do have to go through death, but not the way that we have been told. So yeah, that was one of the thoughts that came, and just building on that. And there were others, again, have to do with the names. Things are hidden in the names. One of was like scarab and scar and ab. And what came to my thought was the abdomen, the bowels of mercy have been scarred. And we talked about also the mist. We had talked about that too. So just all these little bits, these particular parts that, come up as he was presenting that overall wonderful, orderly description of Mount Carmel, and tying it into the Bible that they gave us, and how they use the Bible, the very scriptures that the Most High, the words that he spoke through our ancestors in these places. And again, the great deception, which again, Genesis 1, he said the enemy was the most crafty and deceptive animal that was in creation. So yeah, all of that, praise the Most High. It's just wonderful how he said he is going to put the two sticks, not three, two sticks, the two kingdoms back together. And he's doing that through the very children in this third and fourth generation that he said he was going to do. And I see that, and I see bits and pieces of that in all of the ones who have these studies. So all praises.
All praises to the Most High. All praises to the Most High. Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you. Thank you. Praise the Most High. Thank you, Nick. Yeah.
Yeah. I
can't wait to hear what Vincent got to say.
What's that? Oh, yeah, he's coming up next after Ray and Vanessa. Vanessa, go ahead.
This is magnificent.
Give me time on it.
This Nick, Vincent, just it was amazing. It was.
Hold on, Mama Emma, go ahead and mute your. Go ahead and mute your computer, Mama Emma. We're getting some interference.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Emma was, I certainly enjoyed her as well, but I will tell you, Nick, so on point. When we were learning also about this mountain, that, so much has been lied to us about Israel, and we believe it. I mean, we just believe it because it is, it's there. It's what they say, and what we've had in history. And 1940, what was it, 46, I think, 48 rather, when it became, official that this is Israel. We know that Israel, the name Akobi was changed over to Israel, and that was their way of inserting themselves in. When we get to this mountain part, what I found so interesting was that they still show the pictures. And when they show the pictures, there's this ring around it. And that ring is the ring that shows that it's been burnt. Never understood that, never even thought, my goodness, how profound is this? Because we just, if we don't read, and that's the problem, especially with Black people. We don't want to read. We don't want to read. Somebody tell it to us, and then we go and we tout it. This is what the whole internet is all about, is tell a lie, don't seek it out, be the first to tell the lie, That's all you have to do, and they will believe. That's it. It's sad, it's pathetic, but so true. When I as well as Emma listened to Nkosi, and he explained this very same thing, the very same thing. It is what I need to hear, what I need to see, and to share with my family here. I am dyslexic. And so if you don't know anything about dyslexia, it is where everything gets turned upside down. So when I read the Bible, it's literally backwards for me, literally backwards. So I have to listen to somebody either read it to me or literally like a child call out every word. In the beginning. That's how I read. Okay. So when I hear this and then I see it and I put the 2 and 2 together and understand this is a holy mountain here. This is what a mountain is, and this is what a hill is. Everything in Israel is a hill. It's a hill. And we've believed it for hundreds and thousands of years, as far as I'm concerned in our heads. Israel ain't that old. For 1948, that is not that old. And that this is what we have been seeing and hearing, the lies so much that it gets inside of us. And we can no longer look at the lie. I mean, literally, it's been scraped off of our eyes, and we have to open our eyes and our hearts to really ask Sonini Nanini, help this to solidify in me. How can, I need it to take place in me. I saw the pictures of the ring around the mountain and understanding what a mountain is. And I'm saying all this to say this again, and I've said it for the last 3 times. I'd rather have a bucket of I know than a handful of faith. So I have to go back to that. It's something about seeing this burnt ring around this mountain that is just sticking to my soul and my spirit. That this is where Sonini Nanini showed up, y'all. He showed up on this mountain, and he left the DNA in the mountain that they can't ever erase. They can't take this away from us. So I'm going to shut up. That's it.
Oh, wait, let me get my little point in. When Nick's showed us about that stone, tourmaline, to read what is online, its origination is from, they're saying it was formed from the energy of a rainbow. I just read that. You can't make this up.
I'm like, wow.
And to know that whole area of Namibia, that's Shem lived a few miles up the road. Supposedly Jerusalem is not too far from that area, where Joshua fought the 5 kings, where Abraham fought the 5 kings, is in that same area. Thanks, Nick. I mean, I was looking in another direction. Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, anyway, I'll comment later. Brother Vincent, go ahead. Welcome. Good to see you.
Oh, thanks. Shalom, everyone. Okay, this land of the Ish people. All right, let me just make two few or 3 comments. First, when you go through the scriptures, there was a drought. There had been a famine for 3 years, and that it had not rained. And the bushman who comes in Gods Must Be Crazy, if you've never watched the movie, you need to go watch the movie so that you can understand when Brother Nick was talking about how Elijah looked like. He was exactly like that guy in the Gods Must Be Crazy, the bushman in the Gods Must Be Crazy. He puts on leather, he doesn't shave, he eats honey from the trees and everything, and he turns up in front of the king and he says, I'm Elijah the Tishbite, and he says, I stand before God. Now, it was 3 years, no rain. So you can imagine if these guys have to move 45 kilometers to try and get to a brook to carry water up, because Elijah told them, put water on the stones. And then said, put more. Well, these guys have been able to do 45 times, almost 3 times, 120 kilometers to bring back water. It can't. There's something definitely wrong in that equation. And I thank Brother Nick for having measured it, because that tells you something's off. If the thing was only 5 kilometers, you're just going down, you've got a whole army, because remember, the whole population of Israel was there. They had come to witness the great contest. So getting water from down the hill is 5 kilometers. That's a brook. Okay? Yeah. So that's the first one. So the first problem is a big problem there, because now the distance doesn't work. There is no way you're going to go and get this water from that distance to bring it and pour it on this. And on top of that, it has to be, so if, when it's cold on a mountain, even during drought, you actually get, when you go into these main mountains, you get precipitation, okay? So you can get something from the bottom of the mountain. But if the river is 40 kilometers away, that's a big problem. Now, second problem, this Carib, and this is something that Sister Vanessa has alluded to, and I'm putting it as a challenge for us. I believe all of you have been watching the news about the conflict in Palestine, isn't it? And that's where the Ish people came and settled. For the scarab beetle does not collect goat dung. Goat poops pellets. Let me put it that way. The goats poop pellets, round small things like a marble. That's what goat and sheep do. Cows poop dung. You've all seen cows. Now, even with the current place in the Ish place, apart from the dairy cows that they brought in, they never had the cows that you'd actually graze around, moving around, so the scarabs would come in and collect the poop. They're not there in that region. Those guys have been, and I want you guys to go and look it up. Those guys have been farming, doing what? Herding sheep and goats. The only place where you find now large populations is where? In places like Africa, where they've been doing what? They have been having cows, okay? They have been herding cows for a long time. So the scarab beetle, because the scarab beetle, the variety we have in Kenya is slightly different from that one in Erongo, but it's there, and it collects all these huge dungs of cow poop and carries them. So how will it carry the poop if there are no cows? No local cows to being farmed around the place. You get it? That's the second problem. There is no cow for them to collect, because customarily they only do what? They keep sheep in that region. Up to today, up to the Palestinians today, the guys who've been there for forever in their farms, you look at their farms, they don't do cows. The Israelis now have come in, the Ish people have come in to do dairy cows in big sheds and in all those kind of things, the Asians and freshened cows, but not local cows. Why? They don't have it. That's my second point. So that's food for us to think about. The third is something I want to challenge you. In 1948, you need to watch some videos of what happened in 1948 and around the locations and everything. One thing that was very interesting about what Nick put up, 2 hills were of the same height. Something that is, God never makes 2 people, even when they are twins, they are different. You know? So how do you end up having 2 hills in the same height, unless it's something man-made? That's why when you look at the French guys, they'll tell you the pyramids all face the same direction, because it's somebody who is making them, you know? Now, these guys have been for a long time. When they took out the text from our caves and went and called them they say they're now in Qumran, they were taking all those years when you're having apartheid in SA. What they were doing is taking locations, trying to go and map in that new land. And that's why for a long time, nobody would get in. It's until they had moved their things that they'll come and tell you, we found this, we've done this, we have this. After they have had time to move bulldozers and create hills and call them mountains, you know? But if you go into the old, it was not there. That's the reality. So we need to be able to, yeah, because okay, somebody's put it there. Mount Scopas and Mount Olives are both 826 meters. So was God creating twin mountains or what was happening? But because even where the mountains are close to each other, even something like Mount Kenya, you have peaks. You don't have two mountains or even two hills that are exactly the same. Yes, you can get hills. If you get a flow of hills, it might come close. Now, what does that tell us? I think for us, what we need to do is, as Sister Vanessa said, we do our research, because all these things are pointing us to one thing. They're pointing us, it is just another piece of evidence that now keeps on adding up to what we believe is actually true. Not just what we are saying, as you're saying, not just having faith, but actually this is something that you can see, and we can actually be able to ask ourselves, and we can be able to have something to, even when we come across these people who don't believe or they don't understand. I know, Vanessa, you've got people who say that the guys came from Egypt is actually where people fled to in America. Okay, we still need to help them with a lot of issues around that. So we've got all those other challenges, but these are the things that, because we've got to come and look for now, these dung beetles in the US, I don't know if they are there. The temperatures will definitely not work in their favor. So it's these small things that God always leaves clues for us to try and look at it and put it together. That's it for now. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Brother Vincent. I mean, you know, we keep saying the math gotta add up, the math gotta math. If it's not mathing out, it just, I mean, you guys are bringing out such basic things that I'm thinking to myself, how come I never saw that? I mean, these guys, for example, you talked about, you know, Elijah told these guys to go get the water 3 or 4 times, if I remember the story correctly. They're gonna run 40 kilometers like a marathon every trip. Come on, man. It just doesn't add up. But, you know, I can run 5 kilometers. That's about 2 miles and some change. I can do that 3, 4 times. I mean, I do that when I just go to work out, you know, but running 40 kilometers, I mean, with water and then back again, were they fooling, you know? Oh boy, this is just so interesting. Mama Emma Doris, go ahead.
Oh, yes, praise the Most High. Oh, yeah, they do have dung beetles in America. As a child, I saw them in Alabama. So yeah, in the South. Um, but anyway, you know, the animals, they are off their kill of what they really do too now. So uh, so they might not have it might not have been goat or sheep dung. It was any kind of dung because of the flies. But anyway, so and then the other thing, dyslexia. Uh, have you looked up the definition of that? Okay, so and you said see things upside down. As a teacher, they assigned me to uh, children who I can't think of the name right now. That skip my thought. But anyway, it's because of the English language uh, and how they began to teach that, and it started being more evident when they started doing what they call IEPs, or individual um, identification, for teaching the children who had so-called learning disabilities. And they started again with our children, and it began to be popular based on early childhood education. And you can see the location, how that how they use that method again to quote unquote dumb down our children. because they knew the intellectual ability of our children. So, so again, all of this is connected with the deception of the enemy and the languages that we have, and even in our names. Like I would just, the thought came to me and said, "What, Brother Nick? What is your? Do you know what your name is in your language and what it means?" And also, Brother Vincent, because as that thought was coming to me, you know, Nick, um, Nicholas, Santa Claus, Saint Nick, all those negative names, and it ties in also in the scripture where, um, in the book of Daniel, when they changed their names immediately because they were so brilliant, they took away their names that they told us that the Most High had given them and changed them into names that fit their gods. So, and that's one of the things that I'm finding out about our names, that our English names associated with their deities, uh, and mostly the quote unquote the positive side of their deities, but you know, positive, negative is all one situation. And so again, they don't want us to understand the power or the excellency that is being passed down through our original names, and through our ancestors, and also that teaching that I've been watching a little bit and trying to get some understanding about ancestor worship, and how they tell us it's negative for us, but it's positive for them. The church fathers and down through Constantine and all that is what in the New Testament, it's all those church fathers. But our church fathers, you know, they are all the ones who came against the Most High and served the negative gods and all those kinds of things. So we're not supposed to find out about them or don't study them. And you even brought that out in that in your presentation, the dung beetle, the uh, oh, I can't recall it right now, but you know, it was also in your presentation of the negative and the positive, and like the dung beetle associated with Egypt, Egyptian gods, and all those kinds of things. And I can remember, uh, I there was a fad that came around here in America for women to wear bracelets that had different symbols on them. And when I was in college, and one of the symbols on the bracelet was a dung beetle or a scarab. But again, it was so associated with what we didn't have access to. And at that point in my miseducation in the university, and sororities. And so we were trying to do sororities and bring that into it. But the particular university that I was associated with and was involved in is West Virginia University Mountaineers. And I'm sure at this point some of you have heard about the Mountaineers and all those kinds of things. But there's so much history connected with where we are now and the different places in our country and the African continent. One of the other things that came to my thought, tourmaline, and not fully understanding, but I had been exposed to someone saying that there's one that we represent the only clay vessel that cannot be burned up. And so when you were talking about tourmaline and the description of that, the dark color, but it still has water or life in it, even in its burnt state. And then how they use the deception of Ham is uh, uh, the father of the dark people, but not the Negro. And then also in our discussion, description of that came up where it's hot. Ham means hot or burnt and all those kinds of things. And again, just all these little particulars, the Most High is destroying the negative part of it and bringing about the description of who we are. He is the Most High. He is the highest mountain. He came down and told us to come up so that he could show us who we were, but we were afraid. And so he can't deal with fear. So he said, no, you can't come up because you're afraid. I want you to be afraid, but don't be afraid when I tell you to come. And so it's the same thing now. Don't be afraid of, quote unquote, the darkness that he's exposing us to, because in the darkness, out of darkness comes light. He dwells in darkness, but he comes out of that. And we also, the other thought that I had before I came to that was one of the famous authors, and I cannot say her name, and she said she didn't know she was Black till she came to America. And it's like, because on the continent of Africa, that's what you see. You talk to these people and it's like, you don't associate with people by the seeing of the eye as far as color, because it's not a color. You are a people. You have character. And likewise in the Americas, it's the same thing. But they use that to keep us divided. That's the enemy, because what's the scripture say about him? He also makes himself appear as light but he doesn't really have that ability, because he doesn't have the pure connection to the Most High anymore. He was kicked out, quote unquote, fallen like lightning to the earth and polluting the earth. He polluted the earth as he's coming through it, and he polluted it once he landed on it. And then the things he came in contact with on the earth that was given to us to maintain dominance in the earth realm. And he still thinks that he's deceiving us into doing that. But we have sons of the Most High who are waking up, the manifestation of the sons of the Most High waking up and saying, no, we are this, and we're going to do that, and we're not going to be afraid to tell the truth in its raw form, in an orderly, kind of slow, but it's not slow, it's rapid way. And again, it's just, I am so joyful about the Most High, about me listening and not being afraid to say, can I join this group? Against all the other kind of flags that, that come along with that, it's like, yeah, they still saying this and they still saying that. And, but yeah, praise the Most High. Again, thank you, Brother Nick, for letting the Most High, by yielding to the voice of the Most High and presenting this teaching and all the other ones that he's going to have you guys do. And each one of us, again, adding our particular part to bring about, because loving our brothers, those brothers who we think, did all those things, and they did do it, but they didn't do it out of love. They were tricked into doing. They were beat and cut and killed and burned and all of those things. So praise the Most High. Love you, God. I just, that word in the English language just doesn't fit with yeah.
Yep, it doesn't fit. Mama Matuzola, did you want to say something?
I just want to thank you, Brother Nick and Elder Madavi, for this. This is so amazing and interesting. And my husband was trying to talk. He thought he was talking to y'all, but he wasn't. And he was trying to run out the door because he's always interested in his Mount AI. So this was a very interesting conversation for him when you're talking about the mountains, because he always want to say, how does this Mount AI play into this? What is this Mount AI? And why do they call it Mount AI? And, you know, so this is very interesting. It really is. And so thank you for opening my eyes. And I'm Elder Mathavi, you are right. Some of these things like, man, why didn't I see that? Why didn't I understand that? Because now it just seems so simple. You know, when you're thinking about like you know, when you were speaking about how, why was it possible that he kept running 40 kilometers to go get water and go? It's like, I wasn't that dumb. How could I miss it? You know, I'm laughing at my own self because it's like, how could I miss these simple little details? But that's what spiritual bondage and spiritual blindness will do to a people. How you say, Elder Mathavi? Marifa?
Yep. Marifa. Yep. Yep. That's what it is.
And you know, it's just amazing. It's astounding. And what really, another thing that's very simple that jumped out to me, when you talked about the scarab, the dung beetle. You know, I love to shop. I was one of those females that loved to shop and like all kinds of things and stuff. But I would see these, as your sister was speaking about earlier, and I would see these women buy these bug jewelry with a bug. And I always would wonder, what is the attraction to this thing? It's ugly. I always thought it was ugly, so I never bought one. Thank you, Tata Zombie. But I would always wonder why they would buy these rings, and it was that beetle, and or the necklace or the earrings, and I could never understand. But now that you bringing these things out, this Babylonian system is very crafty in dragging you into idolatry, whether you know it or not. And, you know, it's like you can be opening yourself up to connect with these things and inviting the spirit of those things into your life to afflict you and afflict your life. And you don't have a clue what it is or where it's hiding or what you brought in or how, you know, what's going on. And just listening to what you were saying and describing this beetle, it's like, oh my goodness, this is very crafty. But thank you, Brother Nick. This Elder, thank you so much. These Zooms are amazing, and they're lifting us, and they're breaking chains and breaking bondages.
Amen.
And we're getting more and more free all the time. And again, for all the people that will listen to these videos, just slow down and you know, when you're reading the scriptures, and just let the Holy Spirit speak. We can learn things now. We can know the truth now. We can be free. We can be free. Get the Matanda Masaka.
Oh, amen to that. Amen to that. You know, it's a lot, but one of the things we have to learn to do in this awakening going forward is to change our kind of prayers. You know, our prayers are for divine revelation, not necessarily stuff. I'm not saying we don't need stuff. We do need stuff. But look at the kind of impact revelation and insight creates. You know, Brother Nick comes up here, throws 9 knockout punches that are indisputable, you know, I mean, how are you going to tell me that's a mountain when it's a hill? And you yourself defined what a hill and a mountain is. You know, where are your vineyards or agricultural land? Those guys in the Ishland today, they're coming to many African countries like Kenya, and they're leasing out land. They're even importing red volcanic soil. And you claim you have vineyards? You know, on the proximity to the ocean and from the river. I mean, let's not even go there. You know, we've talked about it 10 times about people running, you know, they cannot do that, you know. Look at the names. You know, they come and slap a name on it, Brandberg Mountain. You know, one of the things we should be praying for is also for the Most High, Tatanzambi, to show us actionable items that we will start pushing and advocating for. One of which is to rename these locations to their original names, not just our names, but rename these places to what they actually are. Don't call it Brandberg Mountain. There were no Germans living in Africa. That's not their homeland. They came there later on, and the Dutch, you know, and then they kicked us out of our prime lands because we had done some boo-boos with the Most High, but it's time for them to get out and replace those names, you know?
Right. Take your names with you, Lake Victoria and all.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Victoria Falls. Come on. I know she fell, but you know, we don't need that name there anymore. You know, so we're gonna find the right avenues to make this name changes. And if we have to start petitions globally, we're gonna start petitions. We're gonna petition the right authorities so that we can rename these places to their rightful names, you know. Something else that caught my eye, I'd mentioned this some previous times. So when we're praying about divine insight and revelation, have you all never noticed that it's only in Israel that a lake is called a sea, just like a hill is called a mountain? They have the Sea of Galilee and they have the Dead Sea. Those things are not even a third the size of Lake Victoria, but they're called seas. What's so special about them that they get to have the liberty to just call them what they want? You know, it's not going to fly anymore. But pray for those insights, those revelations, you know, so that when you're reading your scriptures, the Most High just stops you and tells you, read this again, until it clicks in what he wants to show you. Mama Emma, you have inspired me by mentioning that you watch Wodemaya. You know, anybody watching this, just go into Google, YouTube, type WODE, last name MAYA. Wodemaya is like a YouTube sensation across Africa. He's traveling all around the world, all around Africa, showcasing and changing the narrative that's been told about Africa. You know, most people who hear about Wodemaya, it's people in the continent, because that's how they get to learn about their brothers and sisters in other countries. If you're watching Wodemaya here in the US, wow, that is inspirational. You know, it saves us a lot of time trying to explain what Africa is like, you know, and you get to see how people live because he goes deep into the villages, he talks to the people doing business and so on and so forth. And that's helpful enough in changing our understanding of what really goes on out there. Oh,
they have them in Brazil now.
Yes, I saw that one too. I saw that. And he was connecting with our brothers and sisters there, you know. I've watched the one about Namibia too. I would encourage all of you, if you have not watched it. You know, when you talked about Namibia, or somebody talked about Namibia, and we were talking about cows, right? And the dung. Botswana is a neighboring country to the east of Namibia. Botswana, at some point, I don't know if this statistic is still correct today, but at some point, Botswana had more heads of cattle than people in the country. Okay, they export a lot of meat and things like that, a lot of beef. They had more heads of cattle, cows, than people, you know? And that's part of, you know, our promised land. Let me go and switch over gears to, let me see. Yeah, I got my points in. Sister Shelley, go ahead. I see you have some comments. Then I'll come back to you, Brother Nick.
Okay, Latondo Elder. This class is so wonderful. Can you hear me okay? Because I have in my earphones.
We can hear you. Yes, go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. This class is so wonderful as usual. They're always very informative. I'm learning so much. And yes, you're right. It's the little things that we miss sometimes that are so big and important. It's true. It's true. We've laughed a lot about the running the 40 kilometers, and it's true. I never noticed it either, but that's so true because, you know, and you know, the Most High will show us all these little things that, you know, are big. And you know, this is what you get when people are trying to lie. You know, they lied about so many things and they changed so many things, but they can't change everything and they can't see everything. And the Most High really, you know, protected a lot of things that they couldn't change so that we could see it when he's waking us up and we could learn them and discover them. And that is so good. And one of the most important things too that you were talking about, Elder, is to change the names back. It's true. They came into our land, took over things, and just changed everything because a lot of the old names brought us back to seeing the Most High and looking to him. And they brought us back into connection with him. And so they changed a lot of those things and all those things because they didn't want us to connect back. Because they knew if we connect back to our Most High, their end is swiftly coming. You know, because when we look in the Bible, that's how it was. We disobeyed, the Father allowed the enemy to take us, you know. But as soon as we came into our senses and say, oh, Father, we cry on you and we ask you to forgive us, he brought them back on top. And they knew. That's why they all got together against us, to keep us down. Because they, you know, they took away every connection we could possibly have with the Father. And they taught us all their evil ways. But Most High is waking us up now. And we got to rise up and do that. Bring the old things back. Bring the old ways of living back, righteousness and purity and holiness to our God. We have to come back with all the old names and all the locations and places. Because imagine if Africa brought those old names back, it would be so amazing because people would see for themselves. I'm like, you know, like when you showed us that video with the wine and there was the name Galilee in the back, you know, they're walking into Galilee and it's like, okay, wait, hold on a minute. This is Galilee. And they're going to start to put things together and realize this is the real place. This is the real location, not that land up there. So what piece of junk is that up there? You know, people are going to start asking questions and realize that, you know, this is the real place. So we really need to pray that the leaders that are coming up now, and I see Katanzambi's hand in raising up leaders in Africa. We really have to pray for them that they start to see these things and restore the old names and restore things back, because, you know, Zambia is doing a mighty work that nobody could do. You know, when these sticks are coming together, only he could do that. They separated us so far. And I saw this little clip. There's a little video clip with this lady on YouTube. She does these little clips about Africa. It's like a little sarcastic things they tell you about Africa. And it's so funny. I like to watch it. And she had a nice one the other day about the Africa they show you versus the Africa that's real. And it was so nice and it was so amazing. I sent it to so many people here. I said, look, this is the Africa. So you don't have to be afraid to go back to the homeland. This is what it's really like, not what they're showing you. It was so, and I said, you know, we really have to get this out because they up to today is the 21st century and they're still putting all of these old videos about Africa, like everybody in Africa is suffering and everybody in Africa is dying and all this. And I'm like, these people crazy? But they're going into the Holy Land and they're going into all over Africa and they're living there. They even want to take over part of South Africa, which gets me angry every time I think about it. So I'm not going to start on that again. But they want to take over our place and claim it as theirs. I mean, like, give us a break. Go back home. You know, so yeah, we really need to get back to the old things, the old values, the old names, everything, and bring it back. And they will run. I think they will just be running for their lives because they will know that, you know, game is over. Game is definitely over. Oh.
All right. Let me see who is next here. I think Brother Nick, did you want to say? Let's see. Yeah, Brother Nick wanted to say something, then we'll go to Vincent.
Just two comments that came into my mind. One, the naming thing is quite important. It's what you name on. And I think the real names, once they come out, will be a very big aspect. And the reason for that is this. The current people in the Eastland get about $3.3 billion from tourism. $3.3 billion from tourism. And you can imagine it's not even from the real location. So what happens when people see the real locations? Imagine what could happen to Namibia today. Instead of having 1 million tourists, they have 4 million tourists. So you can see the change in the dynamics for that. The second thing is that came to my mind. If you've ever put up a three-legged stove, or you know the fire with 3 stones on it, is that when you're putting up that, or when you're lighting a fire with 3 stones, you tend to leave a space between you and the fire. It's a bit of space for you and the fire. So it occurred to me when we were discussing this afterwards, that even for Elijah to go back and set up the altar, the rest of the people were outside the ring of fire. Because if the fire came down, it would have burnt the people as well, the small things. So it would have made sense for them to chase after the prophets and catch them because of their outskirts at the bottom. As compared, if they were at the top, it would also mean when they were going to fetch more timber or wood to come burn and rearrange the stones, they'd have to go far off to bring them back. 2, the bull that was being brought to there. Normally, when you're tending to bulls or cows, you tend to put them in a pasture area before you slaughter them. You tie them onto something that they can eat up. What would they be eating if it's dry land? And if there was a famine?
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick. Brother Vincent. Vincent, if you're there, go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay.
All right. No, okay, man, just 2 closing comments. One on what Nick has just mentioned, but you need something else on the Mount Carmel itself. They went to do it up on the mountain. You need to have more or less a flat area where these people can, the assembly, this was called a battleground, okay? So you have the 450 prophets of Baal, plus their attendants, plus the king and his attendants, plus the population, because all of them had come for a contest of the spirit realm. So it means you need to have something that whereby they can all come to congregate, all that kind of thing. And this is not a small contest of two people. These are contests of the gods. So you need to look at the topography of the mountain. Would it be flat enough to create a field where these people would be able to come and stand? Or it's a pointed mountain, like a hill, so you're at the top, so where the other people going to be seeing you? Now look at the Mount Carmel that Brother Nick was showing, it's flat. So these guys would be able to have, it's like a field. You can stand there, all of you can come in to know that you're all coming to witness. Now the second thing, this just by the way, if you look at the other maps that came out later on about whereby you have the distribution of the kingdoms, you'd find that now remember this, the kingdom that went with you have the 12 tribes split into two. Judah and Benjamin are elsewhere, they are on the other side. Okay, this is the 10 that broke down. So now once you begin getting an idea of the geographical locations, it means if you're having that and around Jerusalem, you're having above them somewhere there, you should begin looking for who? For Judah. And because you'll never wipe out Judah, you'll always find him somewhere as a section of him in the Western Africa, which is above where? The current location of Namibia, because between Namibia and the Congo, you have Namibia, Congo, then you go and turn west, slightly to get into Western Africa, where you have the 1577 map showing Kingdom of Judah. Just a thought. That's it. Thank you.
Wow.
So it can actually help us begin when you're beginning to plot where did these people go to,
yeah,
or where the scattering of our brethren in Africa. Because when these guys came in the 1500s, they went. There's a certain map which shows the different countries which had what they were calling Jews in Africa.
Yeah.
Okay, in Ethiopia, in West Africa, in Eastern Africa, in Southern Africa, all those. So now this is all because the Most High doesn't wipe you all out. He always leaves a remnant. It's a principle of his. Even during that conflict with Elijah and Baal, when Elijah was crying, God told him, look here, don't worry. I have my own people who have kept, who have never bowed down. So that time you were saying, I'm the only one. What happens that I'm the only one left? And he says, the Most High told him, no, I have my own people that are preserved, my own priests that are preserved. So Elijah was thinking he's the only one, but God had preserved others. So this can help us when we'll begin reconstructing the other bigger picture around it. Now we have some additional evidence, because if you take this, you take the other study we did about Jerusalem, things start fitting in.
Absolutely.
So that's it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that comparison is really important. You know, when Brother Nick told me, actually, I asked him a few weeks ago, because he kept talking about these examples of the scarab beetle. And so I asked him to start putting together this presentation. And he sent it over for me to create so that I can show it today. And I was tempted. I was already looking at comparing it with where Namibia is, you know, and what we talked about Jerusalem, and in the same vicinity. You know, it maths up. You know, the math is mathing now, finally. You know, you've got to do these cross checks. You know, that's how you get the validation.